Now, NDE Radio, a weekly exploration of near-death experiences and similar encounters with the other side. Now, here's your host, Lee Witting.
Welcome to NDE Radio with Lee Witting, whether you're listening on TalkZone, by podcast, through the archives of our ad-free shows on our YouTube channel, or connected through the incredible content of our Facebook page. Our guest today, Janas, grew up in a Catholic family, but with a mother who could turn on her children. Jason spent much of his time, he says, close to the TV with his little sister, trying to shield her and keep a low profile. He fell away from the church early on, questioning why a loving God would punish people by sending them to hell. So when he left the church, he left God as well. That is, until April 2nd, 2020, when he tried to eat a sandwich and started throwing up blood. He called his ex-wife, who recognized his desperate situation before he passed out. Apparently, COVID-19 had created lung tumors that burst, filling his lungs with blood to the point where he nearly drowned. Jason, welcome to NDE Radio. So they pumped out 2.8?
2.8 liters of blood, and that's the equivalent of like 11.8 or basically 12 cups of blood. So each lung had 6 cups of blood in it by the time. So yeah, they called it acute respiratory failure hypoxia.
I guess, yeah.
Dead, but they somehow saved me. And,
But they thought that it was COVID to start with, that
right.
The tumors had come from the COVID.
Right.
Wow. When did this happen? What year was it?
This happened on April 2nd of 2020. So I had come home from work.
Yeah.
And prior to that, by a couple of weeks, I was waking up with the taste of blood in my mouth. Like, did I bite my tongue or something during the night? But I was like, I get in the shower, I'm rinsing out my mouth, no blood or anything. But that night, April 2nd, I came home from work. I sat down on the couch where I am. I made myself a bagel sandwich. I started eating, I took a couple bites, everything's fine. Then all of a sudden I did one of those and I'm like, oh, it was just horrible tasting, and I'm like, I tried to take another bite of my sandwich. And as soon as I opened up my mouth, blood just kept coming, bright red blood. And I'm talking bright red blood, not dark red, like when you cut your finger.
Right.
Or whatever. This was bright red blood, and it was constantly coming. I started losing, I couldn't breathe, it was.
Well, if this was coming out of your lungs, I don't know how you managed to survive that, because to throw that up, you'd have to have almost filled your lungs.
They were full.
Yeah. Full. So where does the oxygen go if
So I remember calling or trying to FaceTime my ex-wife because she was a nurse.
Uh-huh.
So she finally answered the phone and she goes like, what do you want? And I tried talking to her again, blood covered my phone. And I remember her jumping up and saying, Jason.
Yeah. Very
concerned, Yes. And that's all I remember. Next time I remember, I woke up in the ICU. My wrists or my hands and my feet were strapped to the bed, tube down my throat, stuff up my nose, an IV in my neck, monitors, people, Jason, do you know who you are? And I'm like, I don't know. But as soon as they started talking, I immediately turned to the left. And up in the left-hand corner where the TV was, somebody was there. If I got rid of all the people, I tried to move my head as much as I could to see the TV because somebody was there. Somebody was right there. I felt it as clear as you and I are talking today. Somebody was right there.
So you didn't see them, but you felt their presence, huh?
That's correct. Absolutely. 100%.
And did you think it was, did you have any explanation? Was it an angel or?
Now I know who it was. It was God. But At the time, I had no clue. It was just an overwhelming presence. Like I wanted to get up and go there and talk. And, I had the tube in I couldn't, and for the whole month that I was on the ventilator, that presence was right there. It was unwavering. It was strong, and it got to the point of one of the nurses asked me, Jason, do you want me to turn the TV on for you, hon? And I couldn't talk, I was just like, I just shook my head. I was like, no, you don't understand. There's somebody there. Mm-hmm. Somebody's there, and I'm like, they're going to think I'm nuts, and, so during that whole time, that presence was there. And this is what I had a hard time with after it, is like, from a very early age, from a young boy, my parents weren't religious as far as I know. It was my grandparents. I grew up Catholic and Christian. Mm-hmm. I believed in heaven. I believed in hell. I went through the sacraments, went through everything. But something inside me as a young boy didn't feel right. I always kept asking myself, if God loves me so much, then why would he send me to hell for making mistakes? Why? He's really that vengeful. And you read the stories in the Bible, Sodom and Gomorrah, all of this stuff, the flood, I said, wow, he really hates us. If he created us, then he must be mad that he just hates us, but something didn't feel right. So, around 9 or 10, so like 1979, 80, maybe, I said, my grandmother woke me up for church, and I said, don't you ever wake me up. I came from a very abusive family. I was beaten quite a bit, a lot. And I said, don't you ever wake me up, ever for that. I had some colorful adjectives, and I said, don't you ever. And she's like, geez. And I sat up and I said, don't you ever wake me up. I said, no. And that was the last relationship I had with God. I never called on him. I never went to church. I never said, I love you. I asked him for anything. It was, my full right to exercise free will,
So were you being raised by your grandparents?
No, I was raised by my mother, and she was very abusive. And to the point of where, I was 6 at the time. So this is like 75, 76. So yeah. I would take care of my sister, who was 3 at the time. And I'd be like, don't wake mom up, or we'll get beaten. So I would get her up, and we'd sit in front of the TV, like this close to the TV, so we could watch our cartoons and our little onesies. And, I tried to save my sister from getting beat. Mm-hmm. And then we'd go outside and play and stuff like that. And then I went to go live with my father, because my mother she didn't even have a high school education. So she couldn't do the homework. So she sent me to live with my dad in Wisconsin. That's when my grandmother really came into, with me. And, when I was living with my mom, I'd come up on the weekends and I'd spend all the holidays, but I'd be spending them with my grandparents.
I see.
And my grandmother taught me everything: how to cook, how to clean, how to drive, how to be a good, sane, sober, moral, prudent person. Took me to church, everything. And she was literally my world. She just taught me everything, how to be a good person. So for me to say that to her, I know it devastated her. I know it did. I know it crushed her terribly. And, I went through my whole life knowing I was going to go to hell because I wasn't good enough. And I basically did what I wanted, when I wanted, how I wanted. And I don't care who I hurt in the process. And I hurt a lot of people physically, emotionally, mentally, verbally. I wasn't a good person. I just wasn't.
So you learned that from your mother's behavior?
Probably, because when you get beat, you always ask, why me? What did I do? What did I do to deserve this? So you go through that whole life. I just felt unloved, unwanted, or whatever. My grandmother showed me the love, and I loved her to death. But when I got into my teens and 20s, then I got married at 21, had my own child, and then I was mean to that child. I wasn't a good person. So I guess I lost hope of caring about religion or about any of it. So I just went and did what I wanted to do. Now we're going to go fast forward. I have another daughter, a younger one, who I adore and love. But now this presence is in this room. And finally, at the end of the month, I get off the ventilator. I still couldn't talk. I was having difficulty. I lost 75 pounds, very lethargic. And when I tell you this, I had nothing left to give anymore. Physically, emotionally, mentally, anything. And if I get emotional, I'm sorry. So as I was looking at the TV, I tried to get up on my elbows as much as I could. I couldn't talk, but I cried out to God. For the first time in my life, in 40 years, I said, please, I know I abandoned you. And I said, I'm sorry. I said, I love you. I do. I believe you. And Lord, I love you. I said, please don't let me die. Please, please. I said, I love my children. Please let me see my daughters again. And I'm sobbing uncontrollably. I don't know where this emotion came from. It welled up in me. It still does.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm terribly sorry for abandoning you. I said, I love you so much. And, I went on to describe how much I love somebody. And then all of a sudden, time stopped. I was engulfed in this most beautiful light and unconditional love that just flowed through every part of my being. I was no longer in the bed. I was out of my body. I was looking down I could see everything instantly around me, the whole ICU ward. The grass was alive, and it was a color green that I've never seen before. And I could see the grass, every blade of grass moving independently. And it was alive, and it was happy to see me. I knew instantly where I was, instantly. Before the thought even formulated in my head, I said, I'm home. And I was just loved. I've never felt love like that in my entire life, even from my own children. And I was just in God's, I knew who it was. It was God. I mean, how many people call on God every day? Because he doesn't answer the door. He hears you, he sees you, but he doesn't answer the door. And I'll tell you why in a minute. And I saw the tree souls. Everything was alive. Not just like you see a tree now, but it was alive. I could see their soul. I could feel their love. And it was warm. It flowed through me like a river of love. It was like a river of love, me being immersed in a deep river. And instead of the river moving around you, it flowed through me. And I was energized with all this energy. I was young again, and I was invigorated. And I said, what a beautiful day to die. It was a thought. Everything was through my mind, my communication. And I was just adored. I don't know how long it took. I could have been there 5 hours. It could have been 30 seconds. And then as I was just in that moment, another very strong presence showed up. So Father was off to the left, and then like right in front of me, even though I didn't turn my gaze, I could still see that direction. And it was Jesus. And the love that he showed me was even more. It was almost, in a human term, stifling. It was just so much love. And again, it was warm. And that flowed through me. And I just wanted to go home. I didn't want to come back. I didn't care about my children anymore. And I don't want to mean it or sound like that in a bad way, but I knew they were perfect. They were right where they needed to be. Everybody and everything that was happening on that planet is exactly where we all needed to be. It was perfect. And I just wanted to go home. I did not want to come back here. And again, I don't know how long. There was no verbal communicating except for me. And again, how long it took, I don't know. But Jesus put 2 hands on my chest and laid me back in, and I felt, and I love you. And then I was completely out. I mean, I was knocked out, like there was no waking me up. And I awoke hours later, I assume. And when I looked off to the left, that presence was gone. It was no longer there. And it has profoundly changed my life. I am filled with a love that is not from this world. I know why we're here, what we are. Everything was given to me instantly. I merged with my higher self, my true consciousness, which is still home. We're all still home. This is nothing more than a dream, the Matrix. What's happening down here isn't real. We come here to experience everything that is not in heaven. When people don't understand that, we're like, what do you mean? It's just like I tell them, now imagine this. Imagine the most purest and most beautiful white. The ceiling is white, the walls are white, the floor is white. It's all that same color white. And I said, now you're in there too, in that room, and you're exactly the same color white. So I tell them, how do you know you're white? You don't, because all you know is your light, your love. You don't know anything else. You don't know what black is. You don't know what blue is. You don't know what hate is. You don't know what harm is or anything. All you know is what we are. We are light and love. And that is what Father is. Father is love, unconditional love and light. And it's unwavering. Everybody is loved that way. We are all here on our own timeline, our own mission. We chose our parents. We chose our life. We chose our, getting married, having children, buying a house, whatever, going to college. You chose your life and the things that you wanted to have happen to you and to do on to others. And that's it. But the ultimate goal of that is to love. And that's what Jesus came here to do. He showed us what love is, how to love unconditionally. It didn't matter who you were, a man or a child, a boy or a girl, a leper, a thief, whatever you want to call that person. He loved everyone unconditionally. And I was loved that way too, unconditionally. And I felt there was no judgment against me, none. I had done nothing wrong. I stood before him. I judged myself. I didn't feel worthy to be in his presence. And the love never stopped. It never stopped. And I realized that I had to forgive myself for feeling that way my whole life, feeling unloved and unwanted. And that was the lesson that I learned out of all of it, was to forgive myself, because I am love. I am worthy of love. And Father showed me how worthy of love I was, because he knew this moment was coming. And he was there waiting for me because he knew I was going to call out to him. And it's simply the most beautiful thing. We are living in the most beautiful love story there ever is, but we're all blind to it because we have all become materialistic. We think about money and cars or this or that, and we don't realize the basic fundamental of who we are and why we're here, which is to love unconditionally. I don't care who hurt you or your child or whatever. Love is the only thing that matters here. We are to love and we are to forgive. And that started with forgiving myself for feeling that way for 50 years of my life. And when I finally forgave myself for everything, for feeling that way, for feeling like I abandoned Father, it felt like the weight of the world was ripped out of me and let go. And for the first time, I could truly breathe. It was the most beautiful thing. And now I love unconditionally and I forgive unconditionally. And it was, like I said, it was a life-changing event. And there's no way, when I tell people, what happened, I get a lot of, well, you're a liar, or you're a zealot. I've been called a zealot, believe it or not. I was like, wow, stop trying to spread Christianity. I said, I left Christianity because everything that I was taught was proven wrong to me in a blink of an eye, in a trillionth of a second. The truth came. And, when I tell people this, and I will not stop telling people this, is that God does not care about your religion. It is insignificant to Father in every way possible. All he wants or would like us is to love him. And that is based on faith. Have faith. He doesn't care if you grab a pile of leaves and say, Father, I love you. Doesn't care. Doesn't care about your religion. And that was given to me as well. I felt like, well, when I got up there, he's like, well, Jace, thank goodness you were a Catholic, because that's the reason you're insignificant in every way. And I needed somebody to talk to after this. So I went to my pastor. I said, I need to talk to you. And he said, okay. He sat down and I started talking. And again, I got very emotional because I can feel it still. I feel him in me. And as I began talking, he sat there looking at me, never moved, never said anything. And then I realized that in essence, the cat was out of the bag. I was like, instead of feeling anger or hatred, I felt such love. And, he was so lost. And I just wanted to hug him and say, it doesn't have to be this way. I said, I forgive you, not to him, but in general. And I left religion, I left Christianity, and I follow my Father and I follow Jesus. And that is love one another. Mm. And that is now how I truly live my life. Now, I will help others. I will do whatever I can for someone. And if they curse me or they hate me or they hit me, I'm asking for forgiveness before anything. So I truly have changed, and I don't at times understand who I am anymore, because the man and the person that I was for 50 years is dead. He filled me with a love not of this world. He stripped me of my pride. We still have our egos. And he filled me with a sense of humility that I have never had in my entire life, a sense of being so humble. And I just want to help people now. I want to talk about this. I want them to know that they're not alone, no matter what they're going through, whether they're alone at home or they've been beaten or sexually abused or whatever, that he's right there with you. He's right there with you. You're not alone. He hears you. Father sees you and he hears you. And it's such a beautiful thing. And I truly am doing this because I want to help people. I want them to know that they're not alone. And that's the truth of my story. I did have an out-of-body experience this March. And I'll tell you about one more thing that just happened last week. And that is, I was emotional like I am now. I was talking to him in the morning, and as I am generally in the mornings, I'm very emotional with him. And I said, you gave me this great experience, Father, but, why couldn't I go through the tunnel? Why'd you keep me in the hospital? Why couldn't I go home? You take me home. Everybody that has these experiences, or, when they go through this, most of them go through the tunnel or go home. Mm-hmm. And, I got out of bed and I'm crying. So I come to the couch and I lay down, and the moment my head hit the pillow, and this is in the second week in March on a Saturday, I was pulled out of my body. Everything, I entered a void of complete and utter blackness. And I'm talking absent of all light, nothing, no sound, no light. And I began traveling. I say it at the speed of light. It was extraordinarily fast. And I'm in this black tunnel, and I'm talking way out the distance was like this little sliver of light. It's like a little white line, like you draw like an eighth of an inch, a little white, so far out. And I'm traveling in this tunnel now. And then all of a sudden, I felt the unconditional love again. Light started to permeate through the tunnel on all sides. And I'm just traveling. And then, I realized that I'm going home. And I'm traveling faster and faster. And this now light is getting closer and closer, and it's expanding to encompass everything. The blackness had dissipated, was gone. There was nothing but this beautiful white light, which is, again, indescribable of its beauty in its entirety. I was traveling and I got closer and closer, and was right up to it. And then all of a sudden I was back into my body. I didn't wake up, but I opened my eyes and I'm like, I just said, thank you. It's once again, Father is listening to every word you say, they do not go unheeded. And he gave me exactly what I asked for. So the biggest question in my mind that pops up is, why me? I had that, why did you choose me out of all this? And the answer came clearly back. Why not? I love you just as much as anybody else. You are no different than anybody else. I love you unconditionally. And I live in both worlds now. I feel angels around me. I feel my departed son. My body starts to tingle like your foot falls asleep, except my whole body will start to tingle. And I know someone is here. I can feel it. I live in both worlds now. I had a lot of guilt. I was very depressed for a long time afterwards. It probably almost took me 2 years to deconstruct from Catholicism and completely unlearn what I have learned that was given to me my whole life, you know. And it was very hard to do because I didn't have anybody to talk to. It was just me. So I'm constantly talking to Father. More and more information is given to me. And the why me left. And now I truly understand who I am, what I am, and the fact that I have died thousands of times. And not only that, but all of us on this planet and other planets where souls are living and going through us, we all helped him create the universe. And we are the universe. We are everything. We are the sun, the planet, the ocean. We are everything. We are creation. And once I settled into that thought, everything became so much easier, so much simpler. And to realize that none of what's going on in this dream is really real. And it just became easy. I became supremely confident, not cocky or arrogant, but just very confident. I stripped myself of everything that I ever was and have rebuilt Jason. Father comes first. He will always come first before me, before my children. So last week at work, this is, and I do believe is the one who contacted me about you. So we were talking about this incident. I said, I don't know if I want to talk to you about it. It's kind of freaked me out. So I got to work early, right? And no one was really there. I mean, there's a part of the plant that's working, but not too many people are there at 5:30 in the morning. So I'm doing some janitorial work, cleaning out a bathroom, and this person walks in. Never seen this person before. Kind of scruffy clothes and beard and stuff like that. And we instantly began talking about God. Why? I don't know how that happened. But all of a sudden, he would just smile, like your smile on your face, and he tilt his head back. And I kept looking, and he had this aura around him of just love and beauty in a way. It was weird. It kind of weirded me out, but, you know, and he moved to another place and we began talking, and he was just sinking in and just letting the love. We were sharing love is what it was. We were sharing the love. And when we were talking about it, it was just bringing him such joy and peace as he was just glowing. And it took probably about 10 minutes. And he said, well, I think I should be going. And when he reached out his hand so lovingly and he squeezed my hand, and it was bone crushing strong. I mean, he could have ripped my arm off of my person and beat me with it. It was that strong. Wow. It was a force that I took me back. I was like, I mean, he literally could have crushed every bone in my hand, you know? And I said, well, it was good talking to you. And he says, I'll see you around. I said, okay. I said, God bless. I finished up what I was doing. He maybe walked out the door, maybe 3 or 4 seconds. So I walked out the door. I wanted to catch his name again. He was nowhere to be found. Gone. Yeah. And I'm like, the one door off to my left, those 2 doors were locked. The other door was locked. And that was a long hallway. There's no way he could have gotten that far. Completely gone. Like, nope. He left that door. He went back home. So, I mean, I know who it was now, because when Lilith and I were talking, she goes, you know who that was, don't you? And I said, I know exactly who it is. I said, I have trouble saying it. And she said, go ahead. And I said, that was Archangel Michael. And she goes, absolutely. Mm-hmm. And I said, why me? Why is Michael coming to me? He's Father's right-hand man. He's right there. So why is he choosing Jason? And I keep asking Father, more knowledge. I want more. And people say, be careful what you ask for. So I'm like, I'm not afraid. But, why was Michael there in a shady bathroom soaking up my love for Father? And honor doesn't even begin to describe that feeling. I mean, it was, again, the most beautiful thing. Archangel Michael was here with me, just talking about Father and loving. I know he was feeling my love because I was feeling his. It was a beautiful moment. And then in a blink of an eye, he was gone. And I was like, how do you talk to people about that? How do you tell people? They're going to look at you like you're nuts. And I'm like, I've gotten to the point of now where I don't care anymore. I know what's going on. Father is using me some way, somehow. I haven't figured it out fully, but I feel him. I feel him in me. I feel it everywhere I go. And now I get that out of body experience. I've been taken home. If I would have crossed that threshold, there was no coming back. That was it. He brought me to that point. He says, you're not done here. You can't come just yet. And I knew that when I was delivered back home. And then 7 months later, Michael is standing with me. And I'm like, could things get any more beautiful? And I told Father, I said, I will talk about you like you asked. I said, I will not fail you. I will not. And I don't care what comes my way. I don't care who spits on me, hurts me, punches me. I will not. And I realized when I chose my parents and I chose that abuse and I chose everything that I did was, I am incredibly strong. You knock me down, I will get back up. No matter what you do, no matter what you say to me, I will get back up. And I told him, I said, I will not fail you. I will not. And I will talk about you. And I know people aren't going to believe some things, and that's okay. That's your choice. That's our free will. That's why we come here. But most people, they want to know, is my son okay? He's dead. Is my husband okay? And I'm like, your husband is home. And he had the most beautiful experience going home to Father. And I said, he's loved. And I said, you will see him again, I promise. And to see the comfort in their eyes is, now I know what my mission is here. And it's to help these people come back to Father. And I told him, I will not fail. I will not. I don't care what happens to me. And that's my story. And most beautiful things are happening to me. And there are times that I feel so unworthy of it. And I realized that's the ego coming in. And I was like, nope, no. I keep my foot firmly on his face. It's like, no, we can't get rid of our egos. It's a part of who we are. And part of learning, being here, is to tackle the ego and say, no. So once I learned to control the ego and keep them down, that I realized that I am love, I am beautiful, and I am worthy of everything that I am. And my goal is to reach as many people as I can. If I can touch one person and change their life, then I know that I have made a difference in this world. And that's what matters to me now. I no longer care about materialism, money, anything. The only thing that matters to me now is love. And I want to show people love. I want them to feel this that I'm feeling right now from Father, because it's beautiful, it's pure, it's undiluted, and it's nothing but love. And I'm an emotional wreck all the time. And I tell him that. I say, thanks. You've made me an emotional wreck. I know he's laughing at me. I can feel it, but I wouldn't change it for the world. I would go through everything all over again. Being in that hospital was the most excruciating thing that has ever happened. I've never felt pain like that. And he took it all away the moment I transitioned home. I felt nothing but love, and all pain was gone. I was restored to who I truly am. And I knew that I needed to be strong to get through what was coming. And I understood why I chose my life, because what I am going through and went through and I'm going to go through is hard, and it's going to be hard. That's okay. I accept it. And I told him, I will not fail. I will not. You can take my home, my house. You can take everything, but you will not take my love. You will not. That's what's happening with me, and that's what happened to me. And people say, well, you weren't dead. That never happened. I said, no, but what it was is I did die. I said, but it was divine intervention. It was simply divine intervention. I knocked on the door. He answered the door. I get a lot of people, that's not fair. He doesn't answer me. He's not going to come down here and do that. That is something he and I set up prior to me coming here. We set that goal. You know, we all have mile markers, A, B, C, D, E. When we get to E or F, we get to go home. We have accomplished our mission. And I said, that is something we set up. He says, if you don't come back by the time you hit C, this is what's going to happen. And I'll be there, but you're going to die and it's going to be rough. Well, I missed A and B. And guess what? C rolled up on me. And sure enough, by 6 o'clock in the evening, I was dead. And he was there waiting. And it's simply the most profound moment of my life, the defining moment. Everybody will have a defining moment in their life, and they'll know when they're in it because it changes your very soul. He reformed my soul. He remade me. And when I look in the mirror in the morning, I sometimes don't recognize the person staring back at me because it may look the same, but everything else is dead. It's been reborn. And it's love is what did it. Simply love. And I want to pass that on. I want to tell everybody that they're not alone, that they have no need to be fearful of anything in their life because God is love and God is light. And you are loved unconditionally and you are heard no matter where you are, what you are doing. When you're asking him something, he is right there listening to you and he will take care of it. He will. And that, Lee, is what happened. And that is me. That is me.
You know, I've heard many near-death experiences, but you are one clear channel for God's love. You are doing amazingly good things, Jason.
God's word is love. We came here to love, to forgive, and to live your life. Live it out of no fear, nothing. There you can do nothing wrong at all. What do you mean we can do no wrong? No, you can do no wrong. Love and live your life. Live it. But our society and religion has crippled us and has confined us to the point of where you can't even glance at somebody walking down the road without fear of being shot or killed or beaten up or whatever. We're failing to live, Lee. We are failing to live in every aspect of why we were created and why we came here in the first place. Father wants us to have fun. Live your life. Have fun. Do it. But when you do it out of love. Have empathy. Have kindness. Help that person that fell. If that homeless man is sitting on the side of the road, bend down and ask him, have you eaten today? Are you hungry? He's no less worthy of your love than you are. And that's what God showed me. Nobody on this planet is any better than anybody else. We are all the same. We are all one. We are all one. And when I tell people, Jesus didn't come here to save us from sin. He came here to show us how to love, to truly show us how to love. And he did it so well, we brutally murdered him for it. And they don't know what to say. They just sit there and they just, no, I don't, it's okay. That's your free will. Please, that's okay. But then there are others that their souls they're telling them something's wrong. These things aren't adding up. All these people that have had an NDE that are talking about it, they're all different, but they're all the same. They're all talking about the love. Yes. They're all communicating the same thing from around the world. How can that be? And we're telling everybody, Father's right here. Love one another. And that is the message, and that's what I will pass on. So they may get hurt, and that's okay. That's fine by me. But eventually, it's going to reach that one person, and that one person is going to say, like you said, that was profound. How can that, something inside everybody is bubbling up and saying, it's not what's wrong. Something's not right. I've done things or, this or that. And, now we're living out of fear. God doesn't want you living out of fear. He wants you to live in love and do whatever you want to do and have fun. And when the time's up, you come home. And that's what I want to get across to everybody. Don't fear. Fear is an illusion. God is love. God is light. Anything that is not that will push you further away from Father. And he will allow you to do that because that is your free will. He's allowing you to exercise what you came to Earth for. Earth is the only free will planet we have in our galaxy right now. Not in the universe, but right now in our galaxy, Earth is the only free will planet we have. And it's also the hardest place to incarnate into. So we don't start here. We start in other galaxies, other solar systems, a different part of the universe, because when we incarnate there, we still feel home. We still feel Father. We still feel the unconditional love. You get married, you have children, you may do this, whatever, but it's only on Earth when you finally have the strength and the knowledge of learning as a soul to come to Earth, knowing, when you come here, and we are very excited to come here because we want to experience these things that we can't experience anywhere else. And then all of a sudden, whoop, the umbilical cord's cut off. And basically, you're not on your own, but you are, now you go forth and we become lost. And some of us can't handle it and we kill ourselves. They simply cannot handle what they signed up for. So it is extremely hard to be here. It is. It's not easy being on Earth. It's not. We have pain, suffering, body aches and joints, or some things may have happened to us as a child, as a grown-up, or whatever, and we simply become lost. And then when we become lost, then what happens? We get angry. Then when we get angry, we do things that under normal circumstances we wouldn't do. But, when you're lost, frustration, anger, hate, again, free will. And then we go down paths that we go down. So, when I look at people, it's just like when I see the mass shootings and stuff like that, or the hate that's out there, I realize that most of these people signed up for this. When I told you about the white room, you don't know what anything other than, you don't know you're white. So how do you know what any of this is? So we sign up for these things and all of a sudden we're cut off from home and, oh, God, he must really hate it. No, he's allowing you to live on how you chose to do. So no, somebody said, I'm so tired of you talking about love. And then why doesn't he come down here and fix all the hate and the anger and the rage? I said, he's not going to. Why? Because it's what we signed up for. And he looked at me and I was like, you're living the life and everybody else is living the life that they chose. God, no. Yes. You chose your parents. You chose the struggles in your lives, the goods, the bads, and he's allowing you to accomplish what you chose to come here and do. And yes, some of it isn't going to be pretty, but we are heading towards, right now, world peace. World War III is coming. It's going to be here in about 50 or 60 years. And after that war, which is going to last 7 years, world peace. No more hunger, no more starvation, no more homelessness. But upon all of that, nations will fall. The United States will be no more, Russia and everything else. People will say that is meaningless. The only thing that matters is love. And we, in that moment, will have transcended from 2-dimensional, 3-dimensional to 5-dimensional consciousness, which means we are growing as a species and as a soul, those souls that will come in and incarnate on Earth afterwards. We will become much smarter, more intelligent. We'll be eating less. We're gaining. You know what I'm saying? We are growing in consciousness and we will evolve as a species. So we may look a little different 100 years from now, but not much. But the children being born right now, I call them the enlightened ones, meaning you and I have been here for thousands of years. We just keep incarnating and doing different things and trying different things. I tell everybody, we've all been gods and kings, and we've been all wealthy and we've been poor, and we've run the gamut. But the children being born now are the enlightened ones. And what I mean by that is when they're born, they remember all their past lives here. So they're going to take, can you imagine that wealth of knowledge of if they were been here 1,000 times, they remember all of that. So now all of these children, these babies, when 60 years from now, the knowledge and the wealth of bringing on world peace is why we are going to transcend, because they are going to push us over the top. You and I will be long gone. We'll be home, but they're going to transcend and enlighten the world after World War III and basically bring that world peace and say, look, it's beautiful. We are right where we all need to be right now, all of us. We are setting and laying the groundwork for what's coming. So COVID was supposed to happen, millions died. Well, that's how they chose to die. The shootings, that's how they chose to die. We are laying the vital groundwork for those enlightened ones to essentially step on us and push everybody up and over. And then Earth will no longer be a free will planet. People that incarnate here on Earth again won't be cut off from home. We'll feel the love, we'll feel home, we'll feel Jesus, we'll feel Father. And then Father will pick another planet to have free will. And then guess where we're going to go? We're going to go back to that new world to, again, learn. We are constantly learning, not this garbage, this suitcase that we're in, but our true essence, our true souls. We are constantly learning. And when we're, not incarnating somewhere, we're at home learning. We are always learning, whether we're with our soulmates, our soul families. I mean, we have families from all over the universe, children and husbands. I may have been a wife. I may have been a husband somewhere else, but we are all one. And then when we transcend, Earth is no longer free will, and we will go incarnate elsewhere. So it's a beautiful thing, really. And the information still keeps coming. I just wake up on one morning, I just know. And people say, well, how do you know? Well, how do you know you're hungry? And they look at that. How do you know you're hungry? I'm hungry. How do you know? Tell me. You can't. You just know. So when I tell people that, it's like that, and it happens to other people with NDEs, they get that knowledge. It just comes, and I ask them every day, more. I want to help people. And I know he's listening to me, hence Michael being with me, that it's coming. So it's hard, but it's beautiful in the same aspect. So I want everybody to know that, yes, there are going to be bad things coming. The war in the Ukraine, the drought, the severe weather, people dying. The Earth is cleaning itself. Basically, all of us in our 40s and 50s or 50s and 60s and upward, we need to die. We need to go, because those enlightened ones are now going to be heavily influencing and pushing mankind or our civilization to a higher form of consciousness. And when I can see it, I see it as absolutely beautiful. I mean, what an amazing thing. What an amazing thing to be a part of. How many times? Thousands of times for me, you and everybody else down here. So we are all laying that groundwork to get to that point. We are, all of us on this planet are the drops of water in the ocean. Not one person can be left out, or that ocean cannot be filled. All of us. It takes all of us. That's the beauty of it all. We are all one. We are all part of the same thing. We are all moving. And that's what, people don't see, because they're caught up in the materialistic world and this and that. They don't see the whole goal. And don't get me wrong, I was a part of that on an epic failure for my whole life until that moment. And then I just see where we are and where we're going and who we are. And it's beautiful. But there's days like, none of this is real. Why do I need to go? What's work? I was like, blah, blah, blah. It's just, I kind of go through those moments where like, come on now, but it's all good. It's all beautiful, and I have love and empathy for everyone now. And I'm Father's voice down here. I'm one of his messengers to let everybody know that he's here. He's watching, he sees, but you're doing what you signed up to do, whether it's good or not. It's like all our timelines, are going here and there and everywhere. And sometimes when you meet somebody, it's for a reason. It isn't just by chance. It's for a reason. Those timelines interceded for a reason, and there's always a lesson here. Whatever happens to us, who you meet, who you talk to, it just didn't happen by random. Like when you go grocery shopping, you go grocery shopping by yourself or with your kids, but you don't talk to anybody else. Why? You're not meant to. They're not meant to be in your life. And it's that simple. So those people that come in and profoundly change your life or who you talk to, they're there because they were meant to be there at that moment in time. You cross those lines and you change that person's life, or they changed your life. And that lesson to be learned through that conversation or interaction or that moment. So I just find it absolutely beautiful. And I see everything now for its beauty. It's like now when I look at the sunrise, I just see how magnificent it truly is and how beautiful it is. Before that, I never paid attention. Who cares? And yeah, it's the sun. Now look at it. It's beautiful. Watch it go down and see God's magnificence in it. It's truly beautiful. You created that. We all did. Look at it. Admire it. How many people see somebody mowing the lawn, but do they take in how good the fresh grass smells? You can't get that at home. You don't know what fresh grass smells like because you don't. The grass is alive up there and will talk to you and sing to you, but you don't get that sense that you can in the physical world. In the spiritual world, it's breathtakingly beautiful and all that, but you don't get the physical sense, and that's why we're here.
Have you had any other experiences like that, or do you feel like you're having any conversations with the other side?
I do. I ran into a medium unintentionally. She saw one of my interviews, and while we were talking, my son showed up. He passed away 14 years ago. He was stillborn. So he came out at 4 months, but he was dead.
Yes.
So she said, she was talking to me and she's like, do you have an uncle? And I said, no. I said, yeah, but he's alive. And I said, no, Dad passed it. Uncle. I said, no, I only have one of this age. And I go, Uncle, no. I said, I lost my son 15 years ago. His name was Connor. And she goes, yes. I said, why? She goes, and there's no way she could have known this. None. There's no way.
Yeah.
Well, he's here with me. Huh. And is like, he wants to talk. He mentioned some things that, were absolutely true, that there's no one that could have known at the time, except for me and my ex-wife. And he informed me why things had happened that way. And his message was clear. He said, Dad, I was never meant to be born. He says, my job, my mission was simply to bring you back to God. Remember when I talked about mile markers, A, B, C, D, and E? Yes. Well, A was my grandmother waking me up for church, and I said no. B, I didn't find out until 15 years after, which my son just informed me, which was, Dad, I was never meant to be born. It was simply to bring you back to God, And he says, it didn't work. And he says, I love you, Dad. And of course I'm sobbing because, I'm an emotional wreck. And, but he's here all the time. I feel him all the time. The energy changes in the room. I start to tingle and, I know he's here. And sometimes I can hear out of my ears, I'll hear, hey, so he's trying to get a hold of Dad. And I just haven't gotten that far yet, to totally receive. So, I keep asking Father, I want more information, help me help everyone else, so it's coming, but I feel him around all the time. He's here all the time.
Do you think he will be a medium or is a medium for some of that communication from the other side or direction from the other side?
Yeah. It could be. Yeah.
a huge number of children are miscarried. It's almost like 25 or 26% of all pregnancies end in miscarriage. So are you saying that these miscarriages, for the most part, perhaps, were never intended to be born?
That's correct. Yep. And because, when we come here, like I said, we choose our life. We just don't say all of a sudden pop up down here and we're here. We have to we sit down with our guides, our angels, and we construct our life and what we want to do. And then we go before Father and say, hey, I want to go back. And generally, he approves it. And he goes, okay, but there are some instances he'll say, this is going to be hard. You know that, don't you? But we don't think like this. We don't think linear. We are one with everything. So when we're choosing these things, to us, it's easy. Oh, we'll go do this. Now we get cut off from home. Now you got a broken finger. You can't pay your bills. There's no way to get home at the moment. So yes, you choose those things. And his goal and his love for me was so overwhelming that he told Father, I said, I just want to bring Dad back to you. That's all I want to do. And this is how I want to do it. And when most people grieve, what do? God, why? I love you. Why did you? But it hardened my heart even more. It made me angrier. And he said, Dad, it didn't work. So yes, like I said, there is a lesson in everything. And my lesson was to come back to Father. He's waiting. He's allowing my free will to do whatever I need to do. But that was his love. That was his ultimate love, was to sacrifice a life here on earth for one reason and one reason only. And that was to bring me to God, back to Father. That was his only mission.
Do you suppose Connor was with you as someone else in another lifetime?
I've often thought about that. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me because, like I said, we have soul families and they're not just from this earth or this whatever. They may go back centuries. Like you may have great grandfather that could have been King Tut's father. So you don't know, you keep coming. So you have these soul families, but they're not just from Earth. They're from other galaxies, other planets, and everything of that nature. So is it entirely possible? 100%.
Yeah.
But you got to remember now, he planned this. So he was watching me as a little kid, watching his mom, and decided, that this was the time. And Father said, okay. And it ended. And, he told me that wasn't my job to be born. I wanted you back with Father. Now I look back at it and see it as the most ultimate love, sacrifice, and love that there could be.
Jason, thank you so much. This has been great.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
This is the message that we all need to hear, and you deliver it really, really well. If listeners would like to hear this show again, or any of our more than 470 archived, ad-free NDE interviews, go to TalkZone's NDE Radio site and hit the Past Shows button, or go to our YouTube channel, NDE Radio with Lee Witting, where you can subscribe to and comment on the complete NDE Radio library. And be sure to check out our NDE Radio Facebook page. Just search NDE Radio with Lee Witting on your Facebook app. Listen again next Monday, 11 a.m. Eastern at TalkZone for more NDE Radio. I'm your host, Lee Witting, saying thanks for listening.